Code has been confirmed. After the tone, please state your name, followed by the pound sign. There are 4 parties in conference, including yourself.
Okay. Okay, so if you'll hit F5 on your keyboard, you'll get a full screen view. And so I thought what I would do today is just go through a few slides and tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. And then we're going to spend most of the time, though, on the product demo so that I can really show you the ins and outs, the advanced features, how to quickly write apps, how to manage your whole project, and that type of thing. So you guys ready for me to go ahead and start?
Yes, Pat.
Okay, so Mobile Frames created a whole new paradigm in mobile computing. And our slogan is custom mobile apps, but with no custom programming. I know we've got IT developers there, but I'm a VP of sales, never written a line of code in my life, and I create very sophisticated apps. I created the one that you're going to see today. So what that means is that when you do have programmers that can work with the system, you can develop apps in really a fraction of the time it would take writing those same applications in C# or Visual Basic. So with the mobile project, there's a whole lot that goes on, and there's a whole lot that you have to think about to make the project successful. And Mobile Frame delivers a complete management solution. So it's not just a rapid application development tool, but a whole system. And I'm going to go into what I mean by that here in just a minute. But when we jump into the product demo, you'll see a nice friendly GUI. And so this whole process of developing apps in the first place, deploying them, and then administering them over time is really streamlined with a system like ours. So we trademarked the term configurable mobile applications. And think of it as a single platform. You buy it one time, and that provides you with bidirectional information flow from the field in the office. But maybe today what you're trying to deploy are work orders. But you may have many different things, inspections, time cards, many different mobile application needs. So you buy the solution one time and you deploy one app or millions of them across any different department. So you really leverage the dollars that you spend on the investment. So I think we're the only vendor out there that will say, hey, send us a form. If you're, and I want to make this offer to you as well. If you are using a form where people are going around doing data collection and you want to send it to us, we'll go ahead and create a prototype application on handhelds or tablet-sized screens. Because we figure that if we're going to talk about how easy the system is to use, then we should prove it. So we'll be happy to do that for you. Today I'm just showing a demo app that I already had in my library, but I'll be happy to do that. Now every year in our business there's the Mobile Village Gold Star Awards, and this year there were 1,000 votes cast, and for the second year in a row we swept gold in all 8 categories that we entered. So it's nice how the industry has really voted us as best of class. And then in addition to some of that industry recognition, we also have very big account names, AOL, City of San Jose, Boeing, Toyota, a lot of names that you'll know here. And all of our accounts, Aquila, all of our accounts are using our system in different ways for one another, doing a lot of work order management out there, some field sales, a little bit of everything. So some of our design features include making the mobile applications easy to use. So I'll show you in the demo app that we've created drop-down lists, and we do auto-populates and pop-up messages, all of that so that you're not trying to turn your mobile workers into technologists, you're just trying to make their job easier. And then with our system, there is a SQL CE database down on the handheld, so your application's always available no matter what. So the only time you really need connectivity is when you're trying to sync data back and forth from the field in the office. And I would say about 90% of our customers have us create the first 1 or 2 apps for them, and then they send somebody to training. Other customers say, no, we want to just go off on our own and do it. So it's completely up to you. I just wanted to mention it to let you know that we do have services here so that we can deliver something turnkey for you. And then all we really need to deploy on is a Microsoft operating system. So you have a nice range of options to choose from on hardware. And then right out of the box, you can do things like take photos, do barcode scanning, capture signatures, sketch damage perhaps, take voice notes. All of these data types are built into the system. They're not separate modules that you have to buy individually. So it comes with it whether or not you use it at the beginning. And then workflow is our term for logic, your coding logic. And of course, we can embed all kinds of logic that fires off of the response of the mobile worker, but we also have server-based workflow. And what that means is that when the data comes back to the database, then you can set up business rules and have events fire automatically. For example, perhaps you want an email to kick off automatically. If you're using a part on a job and you're out of those parts, maybe you want an email to kick off automatically to the VP of parts and get something on order. Or maybe you want to get a quote out to a customer, kick that off to the VP of sales. So lots of things you can do to tie in all of your different departments. Now this next point is, this is not a requirement, but it's a nice thing to have. You can buy memory cards these days pretty cheaply, and Dave can talk to you about the pricing on those. But we can install the application right there on the memory card, and that way if anybody lets their battery drain dead, they won't lose the data they've collected. And integration, we've tried to make integration easy as well. We're based on on Oracle or SQL databases, and it's not some proprietary database. We make our APIs readily available so that you can get in there and do whatever you need to as far as integration goes. And then you guys may already know this, but there's a few categories of competition out there. And so the first one would be, for example, like a point solution. Let's say you were looking for a timekeeping app. You could go out and buy that. It's a hard-coded solution. It does one thing well, but it's not really meant to be used as a platform, and it's not really meant to be changing. So you would have to change your business process to fit into the software. And we take the exact opposite approach. Then you could also just write very detailed specs and go off and hire a vendor to code the thing up from scratch. But then they would be coding up just an application, not a whole system. And it's very expensive and time consuming. And then it's that vendor's code, so you're always reliant on him to make changes. And then there's also some software development kits out there. And you absolutely have to be in a coding project to work with these sorts of things. So we don't fit into the typical categories there. Have y'all thought about other application requirements from any different department, or are you just primarily looking for the work orders today?
We've looked at some different applications. I guess dealing with the same group that this application we're talking about today will be delivered to. When you say work orders, that's a little different than the context of what we're looking at in our terminology. We were looking at an application to support our INR technicians who do repair calls, repair outages of service.
Yeah.
We have other tasks that we call work orders. So I guess it's just a difference in terminology. We have looked at several different types of applications for the transactions our outside guys use.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it is just a different terminology that we're using. But basically, you've got guys that are going out to repair something, and they've got to collect data in the field, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Ron, didn't you also say that it's possible that one day you may want to do some surveys, some inspections of equipment as well?
We've talked about that. There's a group in our engineering department that inventories facilities in the field.
Another part would be that, you as part of that work orders, that they have a number of trucks that go out, maintaining inventory on those trucks. Another thing we talked about in the future, Ron, was that not just the installation of phones and direct or your satellite TV equipment, those kind of direct TV, whatever it is, but you also talked about, where you're actually installing, burying your cable, those kind of work orders as well, was some other things you talked about.
Well, it sounds like there's all kinds of needs there for different mobile applications over time.
Yes.
Okay, well this is my last slide. But remember early on I talked about how we deliver a complete management system, not just a rapid application development tool. So here I'm going to drill down a little bit and show you what I mean by that. So in a minute I'm going to show you the point and click desktop, and that's where you author your apps, that's where you manage your users, you manage the whole system from the mobile frame desktop. And then we also offer a graphical screen designer. So let's say you don't like the way I laid out the screen, and you don't like the colors I used. We'll go in and make changes to it. It's all just a WYSIWYG screen designer. And do you have a need to do any printing out in the field? Maybe leave behind a work receipt?
I don't know. We've tossed that around. I guess there's a couple of different opinions on it. We may decide to go paperless and email contracts, maybe capture an electric signature.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We have a feature where what you could do is you capture the electronic signature, and then you could design however you want the layout to look like, you know, in a PDF, and then set up your business rules where it kicks off those emails with the PDF attached, you know, based on whatever your rules are.
Right.
And then intelligent screen rendering means that you could have a mixed bag of devices. Maybe you want, you know, 90% of your guys on handheld devices, but the other 10% need a larger screen like a tablet. That's okay with us because we'll display according to screen size because we know who you are when you log in with your username and ID. And we've already talked about the client and server-side workflows. That's the logic. Now we are Unicode and double byte compliant, so that means that we can deploy applications in any other language that Microsoft supports. So if you want to deploy some in Spanish or French, it's just as easy to do as it is in English. And the deployment management is the one screen on our system that tells us who, what, when, and where. So who do you want me to deploy these apps to? When do you want the deployment to begin? When do you want it to end? So we'll manage your whole deployment through this one screen that I'm going to show you. And remote software updates are a pretty big deal because let's say you get 50 devices out there, and then Mobile Frame came out with the next version of our software, or Microsoft came out with a security patch. You don't want to have to call in all those devices and manually upgrade them one at a time. Really, all you have to do is drop those files in on our console, and we propagate out the changes through our sync engine. Device driver recognition, what that means is that we recognize what type of device we're on. You don't have to code to the hardware when you're writing your applications. So if we're on an Intermec 761 or a CN3, we'll know. If you go to do barcode scanning, we'll call up the right scanner. We'll call up the right imager. So you don't have to code for that, and it saves a lot of time when developing your apps. Peripherals like printers, we're integrated with over 400 mobile printers out there in the marketplace. And then our sync engine is highly optimized. Let's say you were halfway through a sync and you get dropped. Well, that's okay because we've got checkpoint summary and we know exactly where we left off. So the next time that person wanders back into an area with connectivity, we'll pick up exactly from that point and begin syncing at that point. And the whole thing is not finished until the final handshake is done. Version control when you're writing your apps in the first place, that's all built in. And then device and asset management is built in as well. So from the console, you can see who you gave what device to. What's the device ID? When was the last time this guy synced data? You can even send alert messages down. So it's a great way to manage your entire field, manage the hardware you've deployed out to them. Security is built in. You can encrypt the database on the handheld. You can use HTTPS. And then when we jump into the demo, I'm going to show you a couple of other ideas here. Data connectors to different back-end systems are built in. By the way, would we need to be doing an integration to any back-end systems?
I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean into any commercialized systems?
Yeah, something back at your office that we need to send the data to?
Well, yes, but our systems that we'd be integrating to are primarily internally developed.
Okay.
As integration. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking.
Yeah. There's still databases that we need to share data with, though. Okay, and then enterprise data. You know, it would be ridiculous for us to tell you that now you have to manage your data in 2 places, 1 where it currently resides and 2 in mobile frame. So of course we can just link to that data, and we teach 6 different ways to do that in class. And then for the executives, they probably also want to be able to view the data that came in from the field. So at a glance you can see who you gave what device to. You can open up photos. You can see the data that that person sent in. You could pop open signatures, all of that from the results screen. And then let's say that you do have some requirement that's very unique and nobody else in our customer base would be interested in that feature. You can always write your own DLL and just drop it into our directory structure, and it's there available for you. So we don't lock it down. And then in really large deployments, you may want to have servers scattered all around the country. And so from one screen, you can see how your servers are doing and if they're up and happy. So that's what I meant by a complete mobility solution. There's just a lot more to it than just the app itself. So with that, are you guys ready to see a demo here?
Yes.
All right. Are you seeing my my screen? My little I've got a device sitting here next to my computer, and it's just displaying up through a display program.
Hey, Pat, it takes about 5 to 7 seconds for our screen to refresh here.
Oh, it does.
So just bear in mind whenever you click a drop down or something, just give it a few seconds to refresh here.
Okay. All right. So in a minute we'll say, let's say you don't like the blue that I used. I mean, literally, we can just go make changes to this whole screen just by dragging and dropping it. And so under work orders, let's say I'm one of your repairmen, and I'm going to go out to Bill Gates' house today and do some work. So the idea would be to auto-populate as much data as you can so that the guys in the field aren't trying to type just a whole lot of data. Now, did that auto-populate already? Okay. All right, so one of our workflows is also to go to a URL. So one idea I had would be to take the address info, and if there's connectivity at the time, go hit MapQuest, and show a map like that. Or maybe instead you want to do turn-by-turn driving directions. And then I also want to point that this is our battery meter. So at a glance you can see how you're doing with battery life. And you can click on it, and it'll tell you where you stand. Now, every time you enter data into any of these prompts, it is date and time stamped in the database anyway, but some customers want more like a button, and you may even get more fancy than this. You may want to do a start driving to the next site, arrived at the next site, started working, stopped working. So on my last page I have a stop working button, and then it'll calculate the total number of minutes you spent on that job. And I wanted to point out this keyboard. We have a built-in keyboard if you choose to use it. Of course, the devices also, a lot of them have keyboards, and then there's also that keyboard down here that's built into the operating system. But we also have our own built-in keypad for numeric entry, just to make that easier. And you can also set numeric range limits. Like let's say this number had to be between 100 and 200, but I entered 222. It'll give me a message. And this allows you to verify the data that you're collecting in the field at the time. And then you can also present data only when required. So I have an if-then on this one. So I said, if new equipment data equals no, make this one become invisible because I don't need it anyway. So I'll go in here and I'll select no. I'm trying to move a little slower. And you see that next prompt became invisible. Has it caught up to where I am yet?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you buy devices with cameras in them, you can also take photos of damage. Now mine doesn't have a camera, so I'm just browsing to a picture. But if it did, it would have a little camera icon right there. And you'd click it, the camera would come on, you take your photo, and it just embeds for you. So the mobile worker could pop open his photo, make sure that that's the one I want to send back to the office. And if not, it's embedded now in this record forevermore, so you don't have to marry these photos with the records back at the office later. And then on our sketch pad, you could either have it come up blank, or if you had some type of template you want them to sketch on, they could do that. Maybe it's a vehicle inspection. You want them to inspect their vehicles before they start out for the day. And if you had some sort of template, they could sketch on top of that. And then all of those devices have recorders built in already. So you could also just record voice notes about your job, and then that WAV file is embedded. And of course, we do barcode scanning. Now you can also view any PDFs or Word documents you'd like. And there's a lot of ways to view data. Here's just a couple of ideas. You might want to present data in a grid format like that. Or you might want to say, well, now I want to see more information about that one, and then have it pop up in a form view. And those are really just columns on my database there. So there's a lot, and this isn't the only way. There's many ways to display data. Now, checkboxes are always easy for people to use. And I also have an if-then on the other statement right here. So if I select other, pop up a message. And I'll show you. We'll go in, and that message can say anything you want. Conform, you know, make sense for your business. We also have a grid. So let's say I'm entering parts on this job, and I've got 5 of these filters, and the cost of them is $34 each. You know, have it do the calculations for you. And then let's say, yeah, that's one we're going to use. And you can just keep going and keep adding to the grid as you go along. And there's that stop work button. And so one thing that you could do is take this total minutes worked and then auto-populate their weekly time card perhaps. So you can link applications together like that. And then it's time to get the signature, and you can make that bold and red or whatever color you want. And then they just sign on the glass. And that signature is embedded too. And then you could also use a little icon there to make date and time entry easier. And so then when I'm done, I just hit save, and it will sync back to the office. Now you got a couple of ideas here on sync. This is our manual sync button. Hit it just now, and it'll go out and do a check, make sure there's connectivity, and if so, it will go ahead and start syncing. And if not, I'm also going to show you another thing over here. This is the mobile frame desktop, and you could also it's sending you messages right here as to what happens. And if that failed, let's say you'd lose connectivity, it'll put a message right up there. But now let's change gears. Now we're no longer the mobile worker. Now we're somebody like you. So this is our desktop, and this is where you manage the entire system. So if you go up here to Tools and Remote Manager, I wanted to show you a couple things. So right here, at a glance, you can see how much battery life is remaining on that guy's device, how much free memory, when was the last time he synced any data to me, and you can even send alert messages down there too. So what will happen is that message will show up no matter what page he's on his device. And he could never say that he didn't get the message, because you have to hit OK to dismiss it. And then when you do hit OK, it puts a red receipt up here on the desktop. So he couldn't say he didn't get it. And let me go ahead and show you some client preferences as well. For security reasons, or a lot of different reasons, sometimes customers want to lock down the device so that the guys can't download games and that sort of thing that IT then has to support. So you could put it in kiosk mode so that they can only run the applications you allow them to run. And you could do it this way. You could require a password to exit. You could give them access to some things but not other things. And now we are integrated with Active Directory, so that means that we, of course, can, you just manage your passwords and everything through Active Directory. You don't have to do that in 2 different places. So you could set up these preferences for one, for groups, for whoever you'd like.
So do you take over the email client?
Well, what this will do is if you put it in kiosk mode, it does prevent them from going to do other things. So you have to really think about whether or not you want to prevent them from that.
If you put it in kiosk mode, can you programmatically get to other features like the email client?
No, it's all or none sort of thing. Now you can also prioritize your sync networks. You could tell MobileFrame to first go do a check and see if there is 802.11 connection available. And if so, start syncing then. Let me get rid of this email. There we go. And if there's no 802.11, then go check the GPRS or the CDMA networks and see if there's a connection there. And you can also define your own sync calendars. So you could tell the system to check and see if there is a connection every 10 minutes or every day at 7:30 in the morning on these days. Send data from the device back to the office, and then you could set up a different calendar for sending it from the office down to the device as well. And here under security, you know, what you could do is after X number of minutes, lock out the client when it's been inactive, and then force them to use a password to get back in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and jump into the application development. So we call an application a task. So in my task library, every one of these line items is a different application. So I've got just a ton of them. But this is the one we were looking at, and this is why you don't have to pay MobileFrame $1,500 a day to make your changes. All you do, let's say you have this one deployed out in the field, and now you want to make some changes. All you do is double click on it here, and you hit add. So now you want to add a field, we call it a step, but now you want to add a field called enter day of week. That's it, you just type it in. Now you do need to give it an input type and mechanism. So of course that one's going to be text, but here's all those other choices we talked about earlier. Drawing, audio clip, photos, digital signature, barcode scan. For example, if it were a barcode scan, I would just select it right there, and this auto-populates the mechanism for me. Let me go back and select text, and instead of giving them a drop-down keyboard to choose from, let's give them a drop-down list. So I'm going to make my own list. I'm going to do this the manual way first. So all you do is enter your value and hit enter. And if you want to display Monday or Tuesday to the mobile worker, but your database needs a value, you could do that as well. Now, in most cases, you probably already have this data in some sort of electronic format anyway. So let's say I have a table called work orders, and then I could display like the name of the work order to the mobile worker, but return to the database some ID. And I can filter. And then if you don't like doing it that way, you can also write your own SQL statements. But let's stick with the manual method for now. So let's go in and put some logic into this at this point. First of all, let's say that this prompt is required to be answered. They cannot move off the page until they answer it. It's just simply a checkbox. But now let's go put an if-then statement in here. So we'll do if enter day of week. Am I moving along too fast for the screen?
No, you're doing good, Pat. Thanks.
Okay. So if enter day of week equals, and there's all your other qualifiers, Monday. By the way, you can also do complex conditional statements. So if enter day of week equals Monday, there's a whole bunch of different things you could do. Do a database query. You could do it locally on the handheld or execute against the server if there's connectivity. You can auto-populate data. And you know, I don't want to bore you with every single one of these, but I'm just trying to get you a feel, show you a feel for how this GUI interface looks. You could jump to page 5, make sure they answer those questions. You could do math calculation functions. By the way, remember I told you earlier that you can write your own DLLs and then it just shows up for you in the menu item? That's exactly what this is. We wrote a custom application or custom DLL for San Jose PD, and it's a way that they log in. So it just shows up here. You can comment your work. You could make steps become visible, invisible, make them turn colors, make them read only just by saying, like if we said visible no. If they select Monday, make these things become invisible. And you can embed as many workflows in here as you'd like. Or maybe you want to, maybe you just fired somebody and you want to forcibly log them off and make them exit Mobile Frame Client. You can do some system things like that. You could do your own pop-up message. So if they select Monday, pop up a message that says turn in time cards today. So date time operations, just a real intuitive way to do all the programming that you want to do, but we've abstracted up one level so that you can do it much more quickly. And I better put my INDIF in there. Okay, so now let's say that you're happy with the logic. And now, by the way, for the developers, there is a built-in debugger so that you can step through your logic line by line, and we'll tell you if there's any issues. And then go over here to the screen designer, and over here on the right is that prompt that we just created, and it's truly just a drag and drop screen designer that I'm sure you're all familiar with. You go over here to the properties and just change things, make them any color you'd like. Okay, so now let's say you're happy with your app. Right now you've done nothing with it. It's just sitting in your library. So in order to deploy it, we need to go over here to My Projects. Let's start a new one. And then you can tee this thing up to say, I want to start deploying on this certain date. Maybe it's a survey, and you are finished, on August 15th. So we'll deploy on this date and remove on these dates silently without you needing to take any further action. And then across the bottom, first of all, you tell us, all right, which tasks you want me to deploy. So when I hit Add, my whole library will come up, and I'll just select one of them. If I were to select Auto Run, that means that the minute they turn on their device, take them right into that app. Then tell us who you want it to go to. And then project and dynamic data. Project data is data that's very static. It doesn't change all the time. However, dynamic data, let's go back to that repair order scenario. Let's say you're getting repair orders that come in every 10 minutes. You don't want to have to create a project like this every time. So you would tell the system to go hit your back-end database, see if there's anything new I'll show you, every 10 minutes, or refresh the project data for this entry every 1 day. But then, you can go in here and set it to whatever you'd like, or in the middle of the night. And then we'll dynamically assign users based on how you assign them. Okay, so there's a bunch more that I could show you, but I wanted to just open it up now. That's sort of round trip on the demo, so I wanted to open it up and get your feedback and see if you have any questions for us.
Do you have your own security framework, VPN client?
Well, we can just model yours. Basically, we need an HTTP address to start syncing. So you could put our sync engine in front of the firewall or behind the firewall. You could use HTTPS if you'd like. And I just realized that my CTO and our VP of Engineering is in a meeting. I can't pull either one of them in to get you more detail. But you want to schedule a more technical call to go through that?
I think so, Pat. They've got they have to address their security, their VPN, and those things.
Okay.
And I'd appreciate you scheduling with them, and Ron would be the one to initiate that.
Okay.
Do you have any direct adapters to Remedy?
Are you using Remedy Help Desk?
We are not using Remedy's Help Desk product. We have a customized product that behaves very much like it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny. Our CEO and our CTO both come from Remedy. We haven't actually done an integration with them yet, but to do it would be pretty easy to do. You know, one thing that I haven't shown you is this integration wizard. As you guys know, when you do an integration, there's two sides to it. One is to bring data into the system from other back-end systems, and the other is to go put it back in, you know, do inserts. So today I'll just show you the one way, the bringing it in. So let's say on my little laptop here, I have a separate SQL server to do this demo with, but you know, if you've got it here, or if it's not one of the majors, just specify the string to point us to the right place. And then you put in your server name. Okay. Now we'll go out and discover all the tables in that database and all the columns in there, and just tell us which ones you want to use to bring data in from. Tell us what your primary key is. And you could put in a where clause there if you'd like. So what we will do is we will go out and create an object, which is a table, automatically. And we'll create a task or an app automatically. And then you can also schedule this to go be hitting that back-end database however often you'd like. So watch right here. When I hit finish, it'll start doing its thing. And then I'll go show you what we did. See, over here in the task library, it just created that that application for us. So let me double click here. And the ones here in green are the comments. But, you know, we went in and we created a grid. And those are the columns in my grid, because that's what I had selected. Even over here, we did things like we wrote a custom query. So, I mean, we had a customer that had called up and said, you know, they hadn't been to training, not really even all that IT savvy, but he said that he had just imported 10,000 records from Great Plains just by using this. So we have tricks of the trade built in here to make integrations a lot easier. But yeah, I think that what we could do is we'll bring one of the engineers in on that next call. We can talk about all the detailed questions about integration and security and all of that.
I don't want to get detailed. Another product you used was a Good Link. Is that right, Coy? Have you ever done interfacing using Good Link?
No. What does Good Link do?
It's just an email engine.
Oh, okay.
For a mobile device.
Okay. Well, I mean, we play nice with whatever you want down on the handheld.
Do y'all do any more advanced integrations instead of maybe at the data level or the database level, as far as like any web services? Have you had any experience with that?
Meaning using XML or anything like that? I mean, our sync engine is a web service, but, pardon me?
I said it is?
Yeah, sync engine's a web service.
So I think some of our logic would be a little more complicated than just pushing data.
Okay.
Especially for integrating with Remedy, we would probably need to call some web services to kick off some workflow and different things.
Coy, you'll be writing your own web services on the server side and the sync engine to call those web services, correct?
Yeah, we can easily do that. Mm-hmm.
They can call web service.
And you can call web services from the sync engine?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few ways to do it. and I think I should probably just wait for the next call with the engineers. But another, we can even open other applications from within our application. So let's say you wanted to call GoodLink from within Mobile Frame. You could do that sort of thing as well.
But execute, make DLL calls from the sync engine?
Yeah, I sure can. But I'm sure that you want more of an answer than yes or no. So let's get in, the next call scheduled with the engineers.
And I'd be, I'd love to have some customer reference calls too.
Okay. Well, let's jump into that. When do you think that you're looking to deploy a project?
Well, yeah, we're a little behind where we wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those issues are self-inflicted, but we'd like to move pretty quickly.
Okay. And how many mobile workers are on this first project, by the way?
Approximately 20 to 25, 20 to 30.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Total workers, whether it's a combination of the Intermex CN3s, laptops, or whatever, could be as many as 150.
Okay.
And finally, is that possible? 100, 150? Ultimately. And their plans are to deploy, and this will be Ron's Core's decision, would be that, which modules and which applications do we deploy first. So,
okay.
It's an ongoing process that they have planned to do.
Okay. Well, do you guys happen to know your calendar for the rest of this week? Should we go ahead and schedule something, or do you want me to call you back, Ron?
We may be tight because there's another vendor who's pushing for an end of quarter sale, and it may tie up Thursday and Friday this week for us. I don't know yet, but I think we'd be safer to plan on next week.
Next week, okay. And Dave, do you want to be on that call?
If I'm not available, David Howell will be, okay?
Okay.
So what we'll do is I'll ask Ron to send to me some available dates and times he has next week, and then we can coordinate through us date and time for the next call, okay?
Very good. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to evaluate our solution.
Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
The leader has disconnected. This call will now end.